September 13th, 2021 meeting of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical Center, or yeah. Are there any public comments, or, and welcome to those. I don't see any members of the public here.
All right.
The minutes from the last meeting, the last two meetings, actually, from the August 9th meeting first. Are there any questions about that, or any corrections, or can we accept those as printed?
So moved.
Second it.
They all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And the special meeting of the for August 24th, those minutes as well. And we, are there any questions or comments on those? Could we have a motion to accept this as printed?
Move to
So
accept.
moved.
Okay. So the next item on the consent agenda is the payroll warrants, number 1003, 1005, and 1007. We'll take them one at a time.
Yes.
Can we, what do we want to do with 1003?
I'm on a conference meeting. I've got to email you and tell you. But everything came through though, right? But it's on the wrong. Okay. But I want to talk to you about it. Okay. In about an hour.
I'm sorry, I can't.
That was Jack.
Jackie? Okay, the payroll warrants, 1003. We have a motion to accept those.
So move.
Are there any questions or comments on that? Can we get a second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting that warrant? 1003?
Aye.
Aye.
It looks unanimous. 1005, payroll warrant. Can we get a?
So moved.
Second it.
Second.
We got a second as well? Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor of accepting that warrant?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. And payroll warrant 1007.
So moved.
I'll second that one as well.
Are there any questions or comments on that? All right, all those in favor of accepting warrant as printed?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, and the cash flow report, and the treasurer's report, are there any questions or comments on that?
John, I don't mean to interrupt, but the vendor warrants, you
Oh,
skipped
I'm
over
sorry.
those.
Yeah.
Sorry, I skipped right over that. All right, the vendor warrants, 1004.
So move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Jackie? All those in favor?
Jackie, you're
Are
muted.
you commenting or voting?
Yes, I'm commenting.
Okay,
On the vendor warrants, some of them are a little bit vague, you know, especially some amounts that are very, very high. So it would be good to, and I already expressed my thoughts to Rebecca, to have them a little bit more detailed rather than just a whole category. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Rebecca.
So we try to do as much as we can, but the software itself, the accounting software, limits us to so many characters. So that's where we run into a problem. It cuts it off at a certain point. But if there's ever anything that you have a question on, please feel free to ask. So in 1004, if there's something in specific that you're looking at that you're not sure, or at any point, but that's our biggest problem is we are limited by number of characters with our accounting
The
program.
software. Mhm.
Mhm.
No, I think it was when I saw them first and because I signed first before it comes here. And some of them were rather large with just a general category, but I think it was it was to several vendors, but it was all clumped together. But I don't know whether you sent it or Kathy sent it to me, but anyway.
Jackie, do you have a specific question about that warrant that you would like clarified, or?
Well, it was on the outreach, and I know things are needed, for instance, ads and mail and mailings and certain other things. But, when it gets to be a very high number, you want to know, well, was it for an ad that much? Or, was it a TV thing? Or those are the types of things that I wondered about. And but I can get you specifically, Michael, on that. I don't want to name names, but I will send you an email.
I do know that in that particular one was an accrual when we had to pay for our annual reports and for the mailing, because we have to send postcards to everybody that is within the voting district.
Right.
And that was a large postage cost that we had to pay for that falls under that. So that's one of the things that the final bill came in after the end of the close of the school year, but it's on this warrant. And that was a large amount, which falls under that kind of recruiting, advertising,
Right.
was for our annual reports for the election.
Right.
But if there's anything specific, please reach out. We'll be glad to answer it.
Okay, doke. Thank you.
Okay, so can we have a vote to accept the vendor warrant 10,004?
Yes.
The movement.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and vendor warrant 10,006.
So move.
Move to accept.
Accept it.
Second.
Yep, second it, Leon.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Last two appeared unanimous. Okay. Are there any questions or comments to be made on the cash flow and treasurer's report, et cetera?
Leon's got a question.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and maybe normally we may, I think once before we had questions to everybody to say how the counting system work in terms of tracking by the departments and things and what numbers mean. And I think Rebecca did that once before, or somebody else did, just gave a general overview of when you look at the warrants and the payroll, it breaks out into different categories and things and so forth. So everybody get an understanding of what they all are in terms of accounting numbers. Well, this particular number is always going to be for automobile repair or mechanic. One is going to culinary and so forth along those lines, certain types of things, so that when you see a certain number, it gives you an idea where the thing is going and what department that it's associating with. We may need to have a refresher on that if possible.
I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on the cash flow, revenues, expenses? Okay. The Education and Finance Committee met this morning. You have a report?
Oh, that's me. Sorry, fell asleep with the switch. Yes, we met this morning at 9 o'clock or thereabouts, and we had 4 items to discuss. And we also invited Lisa Harrington. I forgot her last name. Anyway, she also came to the meeting as an invited guest, and that was very, very helpful. And they explained several things to us. The 4 things that we had as a discussion item was the possibility of creating coding classes, the feasibility of having a hybrid culinary agricultural program, including the third point was including renewable energy into building and trades curriculum. And the 4th one was creating an ongoing survey of student interest. So we began, thankfully, with Meg and Lisa with the last item, which was surveys, which is a big thing. But what we found out, and it was news to me, that the funding for the tech center is based upon the labor and marketing needs put out by the state of Vermont and their labor committees. And presently, leisure and hospitality needs are not being met. And that was also news to me. So then we discussed the future partnerships with other schools, examples, Hoosick Falls and Northshire for different types of things, like, for instance, automotive diesel and mechanics and refinishing and repairs. That's the with the Hoosick Falls group. They expressed some kind of interest. Nothing is locked down now, and of course, COVID has kind of hindered our progress in that field. The next thing that we were discussing, but we haven't really come to any driving conclusions, was the hospitality and leisure, which of course the Northshire needs more. Sorry about that. Somebody's trying to reach me about my, anyway, the Northshire needs more education classes for the leisure and hospitality industry. And I think we all understand that because of the Gold Town issues. And the Education Committee, of course, is open to hearing more questions about all kinds of opportunities for our students. And the coding classes is my, of course, special interest, but we're looking into other possibilities for that, perhaps a partnership with the high school. And Mike pointed out also that we already do some of that coding in automotive. And so it's better to look at applications in coding rather than just pure coding. Anyway, does anybody from my committee, would they like to add anything or make another comment? Go ahead.
I just remember it's good to see the coding going along. When I mentioned Swift and C++ and stuff, it's a great thing as building applications, not so much automotive coding. So hopefully we can pursue that. So it's good to see it still going along.
Anyone else?
We didn't finalize to say it in the meeting, but when we said that the funding was based on hospitality and so forth, and we were needed, I don't think we discussed what actions were going to be taken.
We didn't.
Area. Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, no, we didn't because we don't know. It's only in the talk. And as I said before, and Michael assured me that it's all most of it is because of COVID, and even though we've made great plans, some of them have to be delayed. But it's definitely will be on an agenda item.
Okay, that's what we wanted to say. It'll be
Yeah.
on an agenda item, because if our funding is based on that, we gotta really address that.
Yes. Well, that's one of the top priorities. Now, we're already, according to Lisa and Meg, we're already overflowing in many, many areas, particularly automotive. Mike says that, we're at the point where we really should have another class. And maybe that will be his recommendation, for the upcoming quarter. But it's also based not only on funding, but availability of where to put kids. Because we're also, greatly impacted by classroom space. And an interesting statistic that was discussed was, I think there's like 850 kids in the high school, and our classes, of course, we're getting from other places, including Hoosick. Our classes are at 400. Now, I've been on this board for a number of years, and I haven't heard that number before. So, I mean, Michael, that's fantastic. You've done a great job.
Well, thank you. It's taken all of us to make this happen, and I hope that we can continue with the enrollment. Although, as you heard this morning, most programs are pretty full. So we would certainly be looking to expand some of those, hopefully in the future when we get past this COVID stuff.
Turn it back to you,
Go ahead, Jackie.
John.
Is there any other comments regarding the Education and Finance Committee?
I just wanted to say, you mentioned adding like a renewable energy component to buildings trades, or I don't know to what extent. I'm sure they already cover like weatherization, things like that within their work. But yeah, I think any of that sort of sustainable building practices within the trades component, I'd really love to see, because it does seem like there's a huge amount of demand out there right now, and it helps people save money at the same time, and helps with some of our environmental goals as well. So I think that would be great to support a program expansion like that.
I don't see any other committee reports or action items. So, and my only thing is I would like to get together with I'm going to try and meet with Michael a little bit later today, and I would like to set up a meeting time for the executive committee so that we can do the evaluation of superintendent, etc. When we can all get together. So after I meet with Mike and discuss, then I'll put together some dates and see who can be here when, or which of us can be here all together. So, Mike, the superintendent's report.
My turn. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out today. Whether it's you're here in person or on Zoom, welcome. I have a few things for you. It should not be too lengthy. The first one, I just wanted to update you on the start of school and where we're at with that. We did start on August 24th with our teachers that came back for professional development on the heels of Tropical Storm Henri, which was fun. And some of our training got postponed because of it, but that's all right. We made it work, and they're coming on the 24th of September instead, which is fine. So teachers had time in their classrooms to get things settled, which they definitely needed. The start of school has been challenging. I'd be lying to you if I told you it was perfect. As much as we thought last year was kind of a onersome on the school with health checks and screenings and things, in hindsight, those things were actually probably very helpful in reducing the spread of COVID-19 and other communicable diseases and viruses last year. This year, those requirements are not in place. They're not mandated by the state. We do have a masking policy in place, which you've delegated to me to decide on. And all students and faculty and staff are in masks while they're in the building. And also students who work closely outside together, such as building trades and forestry, they're also masked outside because they're only a few inches from each other. And so we've instituted that as well, along with the frequent hand washing. And there's a lot of us who stand in the hallway who say, don't forget to put your mask above your nose. They tend to migrate down over the day, down to the mouth. But I would say that we have probably about 90 to 95% compliance with the masks. I mean, we're only speaking to a handful of students, and so of course it's the same students, on a daily basis. And now that's become more of a disciplinary issue. If they're not masked, they can't be here. They need to go home. It's just not an option. And so we've had very few and far between of those situations, but there have been a couple. There are some parents who are certainly frustrated, I would say, about that their students have to wear masks while at school. But what I would say is that for those who are listening is that we understand. No one enjoys wearing the masks in the building. It's not fun. I get it, but it's the only way for us right now to continue to be in-person instruction. And, we know remote instruction was incredibly difficult, both for the teachers and the students and for families. And so the only way to maintain in-person instruction is, number one, be masked, get vaccinated, and all do our part in staying as healthy as possible. And that's all that we can do. The Agency for Education is treating, as it stands right now, are treating COVID cases much like the flu. The intention is not to close school for any long duration of time. Of course, anything could change, but that's the current outlook on it, is that we'll deal with these on a case-by-case basis. And it doesn't necessarily mean that an entire school will be closed for an extended period of time. Now, that could happen if there were a lot of cases, of course, but right now it seems to be localized into certain areas. We have had several cases that we have dealt with already this year, whether they're close contact cases or cases of students in the building or adults in the building. It has happened, and it's certainly more prevalent than last year. There's no question about it. I can't give you an exact number today of how many times it's happened, but I can tell you it's many more times than all of last school year. So it is challenging. And as you know, we have students from different schools, and their requirements might be a little bit different at their own school. And so it's been a challenge. We're doing okay, and we'll continue to do okay. It's just a little different than we had imagined. I'll leave it at that. The contact tracing piece that we have to do this year is new. Before, it was the Department of Health that did the contact tracing. Now it's up with school districts to do that. So that puts a lot of extra onus on the school districts in order to provide the information to do that. So to give you an example, if a student, I'll pick a program we don't have. If a student in, visual communications, I don't know if it's a program, but say we had that program, tested positive, reported illness, we have to develop what's called a line list, which is anyone that was in close contact with that person in the day. Close contact is defined as 15 minutes or more, and less than 6 feet. So that's pretty much everyone in the classroom. And so we have to develop line lists, and line lists consist of names, dates of birth, addresses, phone numbers, etc. And for all those people that were potentially contacted, and all those people that were potentially contacted, you can imagine how cumbersome that becomes very quickly. And the fact that a single teacher here at the tech center can see upwards of 60 students a day. And all of a sudden, now you have 60 students that have potentially been exposed, that you now have to figure out how to contact all of them and determine who's a close contact and who isn't. And I want to give a shout out to the nurses who support that, Shannon Tatro and Ashley Walker and Nicole Dodge, middle school and high school nurses, because we contract some of the services with them. But I know it's very difficult to make 100 phone calls, and it's hard to pull the information up when we need it. We have it all. It's a matter of getting it together. And I just want the board and community to know that we're doing it because that's what we need to do to keep students safe. But it really does tax the organization when something like this happens, and it's happening more and more frequently. So I want folks to be aware. It's not a complaint, it's just a statement. We have a process in place to make it happen, but it often detracts from a lot of other things that we feel or need to be done. That's just so you know. I want to update you a little bit on hiring procedures and positions we have open. When we started the school year, I believe I told you we had all our positions filled, or most of them. That is not the case anymore. We are still looking now for a forestry instructor, and I'm also looking for a manufacturing instructor. So those have both been reposted, and we are trying in vain to fill those positions. I can tell you that everyone that's here has feelers out to everywhere to try and fill these two positions. They're both difficult to fill, and we haven't had much luck, to be honest with you. So in manufacturing, Tim Mullen, who's the para that was in there, he has graciously agreed to temporarily continue with manufacturing because he's the most knowledgeable person in the building to do that. But that can't be all year. There's a process in place for this. And then forestry, the instructor in which we had hired resigned for personal reasons just before school started, which left us in quite a lurch with forestry. Another popular program, as you know, and a very important program for our region. There's no question about it. And so we were very disappointed in that last minute resignation, obviously. And right now we have 2 paraprofessionals in there who are helping cover the class. Again, it's a temporary stop. So the programs can continue. We are trying desperately to fill these positions. It's very difficult. If you know somebody that has any interest in forestry, heavy equipment, manufacturing, design, welding, anything in that realm, please pass their information along to the school. And for those who are listening, I know Cat TV is here today, and we'll rebroadcast this. But we are desperately looking for those positions. So if you know of somebody who even might remotely be qualified, please have them contact me so we can at least have a conversation about what the requirements are, what the programs are like, and what the commitment is on the part of the individual. The next piece, I know Becky will chime in on this. We need to start looking at our next meeting of finance. Just around the corner will be setting the budget season for the year. I know that we've had education committee and policy meetings, but finance will need to be ramping up here in probably the next month. So I'll let Becky talk a little bit about that process, and then I forget who's chair of the finance committee. I think Fran, you are either Fran or Ken. I can't remember.
I think it's Ken.
Ken, okay.
Ken.
Ken, okay.
So what happens is with the process, and the earlier we can get started to have some discussions, the better prepared we are. But before we go on the December break, we want to have our budget in place and be able to kind of promote it so that come January, we can start educating the community with our budget for the vote in March. We always are much earlier than the schools. And so part of our budget, then the schools then know what they have to pay to us and incorporate that into the like Mount Anthony or SVSU and Arlington and so on, so that they know their costs in order to send their students to us. So we set our budget and have it ready earlier. So the discussions need to start now. We start talking about some of the bigger projects that may be in need. For example, the front of our building, the area in the front where the stairs are and the walkway going in is starting to break down. So at some point that might be a discussion that maybe for the next budget, we need to look at, is it time to do major repairs or is it time to patch it up? The teachers start looking at what they want to do as far as their needs in the classroom. Maybe some of their equipment needs to be replaced, maybe some major purchases that they want to have some discussions on. Maybe they need to update so they can stay current with the technology that's being used in industry. So the discussions start now. We bring them to the finance committee. We start talking and creating kind of a list of, these are the things we want to do this year. These are the things we want to bring back to the table next year, and kind of organize that way. We collect the teachers' input and budgets, and then we meet again as a finance committee along with those big ticket items. And then we look at, how much does it raise or does it raise the budget? Is it an increase? Did we keep it the same? If it's an increase, is it something that we feel we could bring to the community right now? Or is it where we need to then again go back and maybe make some cuts for this year or make some priority changes? And then once we have it settled, we then bring it to the board. And again, that's usually by the December meeting. Before we go on the holiday break, the finance committee presents its findings to the board. I explain the budget itself, and then we ask the full board to vote and support that budget. But it starts with some dialogue early with the finance committee and with basically the bigger cost items such as building repairs and major equipment purchases. And then we work through some of the smaller needs within the classrooms. But looking at safety for students, looking at being proactive with industry and keeping up with what's happening in industry, and also looking at, for example, with the education committee, if you feel there's a need for building the hospitality and leisure, maybe it's a matter of making a change or adding a program, or with automotive being so popular, maybe it's a choice to bring on another teacher to be able to increase the enrollment. So these are things that we start talking about in that finance committee first, and then we bring it to the full board once they've decided what the priorities are for next year's budget. So the sooner we start that conversation, the more prepared we are by December. And time goes very quickly. So it's amazing how, we're in September now, and next thing you know, we'll be meeting in December to vote on the budget. So are there any general questions right now about the process?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You can meet whenever.
John, that's what I had from my report. I'm happy to take questions from the board regarding anything that I reported on or things I didn't report on.
Anybody have any questions for-
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jack.
So I understand it's very difficult to wear a mask all day long. And you guys must be, it's a tremendous thing to do. I mean, I go to church and I wear it for an hour and I'm ready to tear it right off as soon as I get out. So my sister suggested to me that I get these things called a 3D mask bracket. And she recommended the silicone one. Evidently, there's two kinds. There's a plastic one and a silicone one. And what it does is it goes under your mask and it moves the mask a little bit out so that it's not touching your face as much, not touching your nose, and you can breathe better. So I looked it up online, and they're about, let's say, a little under $1 a piece. So maybe for the school, it would be 200 and about $40. And I don't think that's a big expense. It might be an incentive for some kids to wear the mask. So anyway, and for the teachers too. Don't leave out the teachers.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to state that when the bylaw committee met earlier this year, we did not meet quorum. So as far as I know, the bylaw committee does not have a chair. And as far as I know, we don't have a meeting coming up in the foreseeable future. So I wanted to address that.
Okay. Is there anybody who's feeling like they're excited about the bylaws and want to jump on those and make sure that we're within?
I know. Leon, you were looking at the 20th, weren't you?
I can't hear him.
I'm sorry, I muted myself. I was looking at the 20th to meet for policy. What I was concerned about, we split that out and said bylaws separate. and I didn't understand how that happened. I thought that, that might have been something that was covered under the policy committee, but that as an item that we needed to talk about. But Asher, I guess you're thinking it needed to be, that it was being separately done. Somebody did somewhere. And I missed it if it did. So if
I'm not necessarily opposed to merging the two. It's my understanding that they're separate committees. So I was wondering about when we would meet.
Well, let's hear John. Is that what you plan to do? Is have separate meetings to talk about things along that line? I'm not looking for anything to do, but that's the bylaws are something we talking about, policies and procedures and things for the school. And the bylaws section was one of those things under that. Were you intended to have somebody form a separate committee and do that?
I don't think that we necessarily need a separate committee, but we do need to review the bylaws because there were some questions about interpretation around an issue last year. So that we need to go over those just to make sure that we're all on the same page with regard to that. That if you want to take that on in the policy committee, that would be fine.
You actually did set up a committee to review bylaws in 2020. And it was a specific committee to establish to research and update bylaws as needed.
Okay.
It would seem logical to tag it along with policy if you can.
Well, yes, because we're going to be using the same legal support on that, and I don't know who was on that bylaw committee.
You have Asher, Art, Leon, Jackie, and John Lampson.
And that's almost the same thing as all on the policy committee.
That's right.
This is true.
So that's why I was confused.
Well, what we can do, Leon, is we can have, and Asher, I'm sorry. What we can do is we can have a policy committee meeting, and then the next meeting of the policy committee meeting would take up the bylaws. And then we
Right.
have a policy committee meeting and then a bylaw committee meeting. Does that make sense?
Well, the agenda items for the policy committee can have bylaws down as an item to discuss. And we can continually discuss whenever and give assignments to somebody that may want to go out and do some research on something, but it'll still be under the same topic and spend part of that 1 hour, because Jim Lamson is the same person that for legally we're going to be asking to help.
Right.
So I just think that could be bylaws just be an agenda items because we got the same members.
And
I'm fine with that.
John Lampson is available from 10:30 until 12:40 for the next semester.
Right. And so we're planning a policy meeting for 9/20. I think it's at 10:30. I put down.
Yeah. So that looks like you could do both.
AM.
Mhm.
We hadn't finalized what the agenda could be on that, but that could be on that committee. One of the agenda items, and how far we're going to get, depending on the other stuff we have. And then we'll just be discussing things through that. And so as always, what I'll do is if there's special concern or special interest, we'll be asking somebody to do some research to research some of the policies and other procedures or other interests to bring to the committee to see whether we need to make any changes anywhere. That's what we'll be doing.
Could you repeat the date and time, please?
That was 9/20 at 10:30 a.m.
Yeah, Jim Lamson is only available at 10:30.
No, he's available from 10:30 to 1, I think, 12:30.
Yeah,
The date's next week, Jackie, next Monday, 9/20, September 20th.
Oh,
Oh, September 20th is,
I
I'm
see, I
sorry.
get it. Too many numbers.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was, yeah,
Okay,
September 20th at 10:30
thank you.
is the time, but he was going to be available for a slot of 2 hours somewhere around that time. Or he can work with us on policies and other matters that we need to address as the representative from the administrative office.
And how long will that meeting take place?
Well, I don't like to shoot for no more than an hour, no meetings.
Good, because
I-
I
yeah.
hate to take his planning time away from him. I mean, that much of his planning time.
Right, and so 1 hour is what we're gonna be having for a meeting
Thank
for when
you.
I'm there.
38
Is
to 11.
max. And so I'll have to look at what it is we need to be doing for an agenda items on that. I know, and then say, okay, let's go for it. Okay,
Leon.
As far as the board goes, that there, should we make a motion to put that under the policy committee and rather than a separate committee? Because I guess we at one point voted on a separate committee. And I think if we're going to change that, we probably need to do that by motion and vote.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
all right.
Aye.
All right. Now, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Yeah,
well, Leon, I just wanted to remind the board, and I didn't write down the date. There was a regional school board meeting by Zoom, and I think it may be tomorrow. And I know I couldn't make it to that meeting myself, but I would encourage everybody to take part in the regional school board meeting, which will be, I think, at 6 o'clock or 6:30 it's the 14th. I saw Mike shaking his head. That may be what it is. I didn't write it down because I knew I couldn't make it. I'm be in Springfield.
I can't make it either, but I did see the date, the 14th to 6.
Okay, 14th is 6. It's great to have us participate, and I would like to have somebody participate in the regional school board meeting. Is there a positive person that said that they'll definitely be out there and be part of that for us?
I intend to attend, but I'm at a funeral in Brewster, New York, so it will probably be in my car, depending upon the satellite connections, if you all know what that means. But I hope to be home or closer by then and attach myself to that Zoom meeting. You have to register also for the meeting if you haven't done that. And I'm sure Mike could send out the registration information again if you didn't get it. But I've attended them as well as Leon, and they were usually in person with a nice sandwich for dinner. So unfortunately, there won't be a sandwich, but it's interesting because you get to see the other people who are in the region, and people from all Manchester, and people from Rutland, and people from all over, and that's kind of nice.
Right. And so the next thing that I have, the annual school board meeting has also been thrown around in terms of it's going to be in person at Lake Moray again this year. And so we usually have 1 or 2 people attend that. Myself, I know Jackie used to do it, or Ken used to would go to that. I hadn't signed up yet, but I'm gonna sign up to go that, and there'll be a lot of things happening there they had a meeting just the other day. A part of it would be a lot of resolutions to recommend changes. And so I attended the school board webinar on school resolutions the last week. So I want to encourage everybody to participate. That's right, Art was there last time that was one up in Lake Morey, and the time before probably. So we do have some representation, and we do have that coming up this year, and it's going to be in person. So we always have a good time to go up, stay in a hotel, and discuss all kind of topics about education and listen to a lot of things that other schools, districts are doing and what their concerns are. That's
And the Vermont School Board has a voice in education in the state, because they take our recommendations and resolutions and they bring it to the legislature.
right.
I would like to get the registration info on that. I'm not sure if I ever got it.
It comes under the school board information on the email to everybody. So all the board members probably didn't run it. Well, I'll try to look, or somebody can look and see what it is. But if you're a registered school board member, they're sending everything to you by the school board for the school board information.
I can look as well and send it along. I do remember seeing it, but I'm not sure I still have it or not, but I'll look.
Okay, that's what I have.
Anyone else?
You'll need to change your October meeting date.
We need to change the October meeting date.
Yeah, the 11th is a holiday, so people won't be here in the building.
Okay,
Usually we go to the week after, which is the 18th. That's usually more, it's usually handier for the business office.
all right. Can we have a motion for that?
I'll move it.
All those in favor of moving the October meeting to the 18th, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. If there are no other, are there any other items, Sandy?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.